we're being joined here by Mark Wilson, Kristina and Helene from Girls Just Want a Box, Mike from Endorphinz. We also have Anne-Marie as well, who is founder of BeWell Advisory and education lead for Endorphinz. So the topic of this talk on this hour is how the fitness world has changed. So here we're looking at how we have evolved, I guess, as a result of everything that has happened recently. And we're looking at how you can bring your business forward into the future by having that digital element or that hybrid element to the offering that you already have in place. So I'm going to stop screen sharing so we can get our panelists up on the screen and get ready to go. Brilliant. So to start off with, I'm going to ask each of our panelists to introduce themselves, and we'll go around the room in that way. So over to you, Anne-Marie.
Hi, I'm Anne-Marie Barbour. I'm founder of BeWell Advisory. I just sold a company, Soul Body Fitness. My business partner, or former business partner, is taking that over. I was in the business of certifying instructors in pre-choreographed programming, implementing programming into larger clubs and studios to help these big box gyms compete with the boutique market as we saw the boutique market boom. After selling that, started BeWell, still advising in this space. That's how I met Mike with Endorphinz and joined him as an education lead, really looking at the virtual or the fitness streaming market. He's creating an agency, a fitness streaming agency. And I've been contributing with webinars and articles. I blog as well with BeWell. And now I'm also managing group fitness at a gym here as we're going to build another bricks and mortar. So kind of have my hands in a couple of places, but all around group fitness, all within the gym, and then also taking that group fitness from the live to the virtual space, and really been researching and writing a lot about that.
Brilliant. Thanks for that, Anne-Marie. So you obviously have perspectives in a lot of different areas, the business side, actually physically then in the studio as well. And would I be right in saying that you're joining us from the US?
Baltimore, Maryland. Yep. And supposedly our clubs may be closing down again. We just were on a big call yesterday, so hoping that does not happen. But yes, from Baltimore.
Brilliant. Thank you. It's great to get these international perspectives as well. Next up, we have Kristina and Helene, who are joining us from Toronto, if I'm not wrong, unless you've moved locations since we last spoke. So if you could tell us a little bit about yourselves, maybe we'll go to Kristina first and tell us a little bit about Girls Just Want a Box and what you're up to at the moment.
Thanks, Carolyn. Can you hear me?
All good.
Okay, awesome. I'm just making sure. You never know. I could be on mute. There could be something going on. So basically, I'm Kristina Ejem. I've been boxing for 20 years. I've been coaching for 10. And along the way, we decided that girls just want to box, and because we do. So we've been teaching the classes like since 2007. I used to run a gym, and we taught the classes out of the gym. So through that time, we created a 5-level program. And then we realized also there wasn't any boxing gear specifically made for women. So Girls Just Want to Box, the theory is girls just want to box for fun and for real. Those two aren't mutually exclusive. And with the gear, we just said, let's actually design boxing gloves and gear for women. So design the gloves and gear by female coaches and boxers for female boxers and coaches. And then we have our classes. And recently, as you know, we were able to go online seamlessly using Glofox and the tools that we have there. And it's been pretty fun. So I'll let Helene introduce herself as well.
So I'm the second half of Girls Just Want to Box. I'm also a boxer and a coach as well. The both are a great pair because I understand what it's like to be a boxer. I understand what it's like to be a coach, so I can help relate when we do get questions from any other female coaches or female boxers as well. And yeah, we kind of have those three silos: education, community, especially now in COVID. That's definitely come probably the #1 thing that we're working on, secondary to our product and the education, which is the classes and just any help that any female boxer wants with their journey, whether that's fighting competitively or just staying in the for fun region. So we're really happy to be here and hear what everyone else has to say.
Great, thanks Helene. Yeah, really looking forward to diving into this topic. It's a good one. On to you then, Mark. Sorry, you're on mute.
There we go. Hi, you can hear me now, Caroline. Yep. Yes. So yeah, I'm Mark Wilson. I'm in the UK, near York. I run a business called Lion Fitness. I started the business about 5 years ago, which was off the back of a complete lifestyle change and work change for me. Previously working in sales and marketing, in the corporate world. So yeah, made the plunge to open up my own fitness studio, which thankfully has been a great success for me and has continued to grow. I also run a triathlon squad, again based in my region. So it's what I'm heavily into. So I do a lot of triathlon work. I work with a lot of triathlon athletes, generally on strength and conditioning, which is where it's kind of my area of specialism. But we do a lot of group fitness, obviously a lot of one-to-one coaching, and we see ourselves very much as a community-based gym. So yeah, things are obviously challenging at the moment, but yeah, it's been an interesting few months. We're kind of looking forward to discussing that with you guys this afternoon.
Great, thanks for that, Mark. And then finally, Mike.
Can you hear me? Just to make sure. Cool. Hi guys, my name is Mike Hansen. I'm the managing partner of Endorphinz. We are a fitness streaming agency. I've been in this industry well over 20 years, started on the club side of the world, and also have built studios. I've introduced multiple markets to fitness. I introduced gaming back in 2005, the first time we started putting screens on bikes, the whole interactive fitness side, and have worked with approximately 50 plus brands in introducing streaming into the fold. And so have a pretty deep background and understanding within this hybrid model and how we might think about this as we start to talk about omni-channel, things of that nature. But looking forward to speaking to you guys.
Brilliant. Well, we have to say we have a really strong lineup here, and it's great to see that we have experience like both running studios, being a personal trainer. Mike, obviously with having your own streaming agency, you're slightly ahead of the curve there as well with anticipating this, whereas maybe Christina, Helene, Mark, working in a studio that was initially a physical studio and then having to work under pressure to get yourselves online. These are all things that we want to touch on today, so we're really looking forward to getting into it. A final reminder again, any questions you do have, pop them into the questions and answers box. We have such a great lineup here, it'd be a shame not to ask them your questions now while you have them. And then finally, the pair of Girls Just Want a Box boxing gloves are up for grabs, so I would encourage you to get your hands on those if you can at all. Okay, so I guess to get started, we are looking at how the world of fitness has changed and this idea of going hybrid. So the main thing here for me is, and I guess to kick off this session is, could you give me your number one reason why you think you need to have this digital element or this digital offering in your business? And I might go to you first, Anne-Marie.
Well, I think pre-COVID, it was already happening. There were a lot of apps that were available to members and people that were belonging to a bricks and mortar that would leave the gym and then they'd log on in the when they were working or when they were traveling. So it's been around for many years and really built really nicely. People were buying multiple subscriptions. And a lot of gyms were getting into this space, like Gold's Gym and Crunch and a lot of other gyms and even studios pre-COVID were adding that virtual or that digital piece. I think why it's such a topic now is, as we all have seen, clubs and studios shut down, and it was like, how big scramble, how do we meet our members? How do we still service them? How do we still support them and give this content that we've created so hard in studio now where they are at home? And we saw the mad rush with IG and Instagram Live and Facebook Live and Zoom. And then Glofox and MindBody and Zype and then all of these other system management club solutions saying, hey, now gyms, you can now access our live streaming and our video on demand services. We'll set up the paywall. It, integrates already into your system. And, it's kind of this mad rush, but I think at the end of the day, it is just where the industry is going. And Mike has seen it I've been working with him, and you know, it's been happening, but now it's just that light switch with the pandemic happened, and now people are scrambling and creating a revenue stream and an offer that I think is very important. I think the hybrid in studio now and virtual is the new expected experience. And I think as gyms may be reclosing, I heard your panel member before this, they're charging up to $99 a month for a virtual membership, and people are willing to pay it. And one more thing I'll have to say about the gym is there is loyalty. So I've discovered just through talking to people and some research that even though they could go to the Peloton app or the Plank app or the Obey app, a lot of them just wanted to be on Zoom with their instructor that they love and they have a connection with. So I think the gyms are realizing, wow, you know, our influencers are our instructors, and there is this loyalty, and they will interact with them virtually because of that relationship and that loyalty. So that's where I see it right now.
Brilliant. Thanks, Anne-Marie. And I think some of the points you touched on there were like particularly significant for me from having spoken to people as well, with this shifting member expectations as well with this online offering, and then also about the loyalty that's there, and people I guess are questioning the loyalty that other that their members will have for them when they do change their offering slightly. So we're definitely going to revisit that in a second. Thanks for that. And then on to you, Christina and Helene. How about for you, the number one reason why this digital element to your business is so important?
I would say because we've wanted to do it for the past 2 years. And actually, I think we talked about this in the podcast. We announced when we threw our website up in 2018 that we were going to have a virtual boxing club, and then it never happened because it's quite an undertaking. And we're used to being in the studio working with people one-on-one. So when this all happened, we were forced to move everything in our homes, let alone just in a studio. So we didn't go into the studio right away. We did it from home, and Helene's at her place, I'm at my place, and we were able to team teach, which was really, really good, because then the one instructor, or just, you know, we're not playing with the computer and doing other things and doing all those things. So Helene was actually injured at the time. So she got to be the DJ, and and she was tech support. And I realized that I was now going to have to actually do everything in the classes. So I got in shape actually again, because now I had to actually do all the moves with my clientele, but they actually liked that. They were actually happy that they loved that I was working out with them. And Helene, how did your DJ skills improve? Pretty good.
Pretty good. No, the only thing I would kind of add is that, especially for us, one thing that really works, boxing, you don't need any equipment. So our transition was also, I think, a lot easier than a strength and conditioning gym that uses a lot of weights or other things. Boxing, obviously you can use little dumbbells. We can obviously do strength and conditioning stuff if they have weights, but you don't need anything. So it was an easy way to just be like, you can do it at home. All you need is like a 4x4 square and you're good, which I would think most people have, even if it's at the end of their bed, which some people did use. But it's super important to have both. One for, you know, if people are afraid to go back, they at least have the option to stay at home. And to kind of go to Anne-Marie's point, I think one of the reasons why people were so hesitant before is that I don't think people realized you could still get that community feel at home. People would go to the gym because they wanted to see their friends. They wanted to see the people that they go to that 6 a.m. or 6 p.m. class. And I think that a lot of people were hesitant because they're like, oh, you can't really get that same feel over a screen. And because we were forced into it, we made it work and we made it happen. I think a lot of people didn't realize how much they could work at home, that it was possible, and that they could still get that same experience if it was with the right studio and the right coaches.
Brilliant. Yeah. And I think the points you touched on there, again, it's like that sense of community that's all important. It's why some people might join fitness or a gym in the first place, for that sense of community. So about thinking about how you can create this through that online offering that you have as well. And I think it's interesting now to move on to Mark at Lion Fitness. So I guess it's interesting, Christina and Helene, you had always anticipated that you were going to go down this virtual route. You just didn't know when. For you, Mark, was it on the roadmap, and how did you pivot into that?
Yeah, I mean, was it on the roadmap? No, certainly not to the extent that it's had to be over the last 3 or 4 months. Online has always been something that I've looked at in terms of one-to-one coaching, but not in terms of group activities. So yeah, I had to react really quickly to what was happening here in the UK and put together an online offering, which was still going to keep that sense of community like the other guys have touched on. For me, the number one reason why we will still continue to have a digital offering is, as a business, it's allowing us a lot more flexibility. So we can look at our timetable and we can now be offering classes in the studio and online, running concurrently with different coaches offering. So the online class may be a yoga class, the studio class might be a strength and conditioning offering. So it's giving us a lot more flexibility with the hours, because it is the studio we run is relatively small. We only have one class, so that in the past would have restricted us to maybe 2 or 3 sessions on an evening with other classes. Now we can offer 5 or 6 classes on an evening because it can be running in the studio and online. So yeah, there's certainly a lot more flexibility. Obviously, we also need to be prepared that we may well get some kind of version of a lockdown again in the future. So the digital offering will always be there now. Just to pick on Anne-Marie's point as well about the connection that people have with their instructors, I think that's really important. And I think that's why the hybrid will still work. And I think that's why for us as a business, at least, because people will build that connection with their instructor, and they can do that online, but as well, they can also do that with us face to face. So we'll be trying to get a nice blend of on-site offering and then remote offerings with our customers, so we can still continue to work face to face and to develop that community.
Great, thanks, Mark. So yeah, there's obviously a lot of benefits of moving online and catering to your members in this way. And I guess for you, Mike, this is your bread and butter with how you have this online streaming business. For you, what are the key benefits of having this digital element or digital offering alongside your business?
Yeah, so let me give you a macro and a micro view on this really quick. The industry was going through a format shift previous to COVID already. If you're not familiar with a format shift, that's obviously where the consumer is going to change the way the industry works, no different than cars going electric, whatever it may be. We identified that last year, and the growth rates were already triple digits last year. COVID obviously accelerated that. When I look at what's the question being the number one reason why, is we call it connections as a strategy. You need to connect with people where they want to be connected at. And if you look at the people that were in this space pre-COVID, 75% of the users online were not even members of the facility, right? So they were connecting to your product, and that was your lowest barriers to entry product. And the reason why is the consumer was able to kind of not access your facility for proximity purposes potentially. Maybe the price point was another factor. Schedule, I can't make a 6 o'clock class because I get out at 6. And then you still have a very large percentage of people that are intimidated by fitness. And the digital offering addresses those things. And that's why you've seen this huge pool and this opportunity when everyone shifted online where they saw success, is because that customer demand was already existed.
Brilliant. Yeah, totally back what you said there. Really interesting points on how, even though obviously travel is limited now, it's breaking down the barriers in so many other ways with accessing fitness by going online. So I guess some of the issues that we'd see, or maybe gym owners would experience, is how do you actually make this experience, this virtual experience, as engaging as possible and really allowing for that connection with your members? And I might go to you for this, Anne-Marie. What would you say, how can you make your virtual classes as engaging as possible?
Well, I think, the gyms already have the formula. They already have the content. They've got the instructors, they've got the classes, they've got all the raw materials that they're doing in studio. So how do you take that and then parlay it or offer it in the digital space, in the virtual space. And we've already said now with COVID, people have created space in their house. They've bought products, whether it's boxing gloves or weights, you know, they've kind of created that space, and they're used to it. And they're like, wow, I can do this, you know, this is great. This is, you know, now I don't have a commute. So when people are wanting it, they're craving it, they like it at home, whether it's from the pandemic or travel or the baby's sick or a workman's coming or whatever it is. But now how do the gyms, what do they do to deliver it? They want the top tier experience, but the production and the quality also has to be top tier, because that's what people are expecting. So yes, you know, when during COVID, you saw everybody like in their living room and it was dark, you could hardly see them, you couldn't hear them. That was okay for that time. We were just meeting people where they were and doing everything we could and being there to support them physically and mentally. But now, you know, you're going to get paid for it, but the production's going to be high because the competition is high. So you want to level up your production with your offer. And then that's a whole nother conversation, you know, whether you use a third-party platform, you do it yourself, you use off-site production, you buy the Mevo camera, you use, you know, Forte or other companies that do the hardware and the software. Do you do the hardware and use another platform for the software? So all of that, I think everybody's figuring out. And I know your panelists are using Glofox, which is wonderful and a great support, but I'm sure you guys still have to figure out your hardware, your camera, who's pressing play, the production. Are you hiring someone to do that? Is it the group fitness manager? Like all of that needs to be figured out.
Yeah, definitely. And like you said, what was totally acceptable in the midst of lockdown, we're obviously at a totally different point now where people have different expectations. And it's going back to that customer expectation piece that you touched on already. I guess for you, Christina and Helene, how do you make your experience engaging with your members?
Sorry, I missed the last thing you said, Carolyn.
How do you make your experience as engaging as possible for your members? What would you say are the top tips for anyone else that really wants to improve their online offering?
Yeah, I think especially with the Zoom classes, people still want that accountability. So with the Zoom classes, they see the instructor, they know they have to sign in, they know they're going to see us. And especially with boxing, we can call it technique during the class. So we have that engagement throughout the class. And to make it, of course, like Anne-Marie was saying, at first it's a little dark. Oh my God, the lighting, what time of day is it? What about the music? And we learned a little trick through Zoom that you can, this is good information, that you can put your music through the internal speaker, which a lot of people don't know, although you can't use it with your earpods, and there's all these things. But we finally found a microphone that worked. We've got all the lighting. And it really makes a difference to give that experience, right? So I think just investing in that equipment is very important. Sound is really important. So we also, when we were team teaching, we had to realize, okay, Helene's gonna do the countdown and the instructions because she's super clear. I'm away from the camera so I can do the movements. Just working out that balance and making a good experience for your clientele, I think is really important. And then of course, our second thing that we're going to be doing now is offering on-demand videos for basic techniques and tips and tricks, and that's going to be new for us. But I do have a background in production and in front and behind cameras, so that's helping a little bit. But yeah, we do need help. We can't do everything ourselves.
I think as well too, for the community aspect, before every class, we always say like, "Hey Liz, how's it going? How was your day?" Like we try and catch everyone before the class starts, even if we do start a little bit late. Everyone knows if they've attended our class, we usually go 5-10 minutes over because one, we talk a lot. So yeah, we usually start off with like, hey, how's everyone doing? How's everyone feeling? Anyone like injured from either like, you know, an outdoor activity that they did, or maybe an old injury that's, you know, recome about from exercising at home and maybe doing a movement they haven't done in a while. And then at the end, we always say, very quickly, questions, comments, concerns, go. And we let our members just chat, and whether they want to tell us about anything that has to do with fitness or the class, or it's about their day because they had a really long meeting and they didn't take a lunch break or whatever it is. So we really try and talk to them about their personal life, not just the class and then it's like, bye, have a good night, see you later, and just pay us.
Yeah, that's such a valid point. And I think what you touched on there as well, like if you're what's differentiating, your offering versus just watching a YouTube video is the fact that you're giving that personalized feedback and attention, that you're giving them that opportunity to connect, and that you're making sure that, that's a clear differentiator. And I think, you touch on those points really well and how you create an engaging offer. And Mark, how about you at Lion Fitness? How do you ensure to, get across a professional, engaging workout class?
Yeah, I mean, I would echo the comments of the other panelists, really, in terms of, we're using Zoom as well. And I'm insistent with the other coaches that I work with that they're dialed in at least 5 or 10 minutes before the class is due to start, so they can have those conversations with people as they dial into the call, as they would if they were walking into the studio. So they can ask them how they are, what have they been up to, ask them questions about, if they've had any injuries or anything else since we last saw them. So to keep it as engaging as possible, so it isn't just, as you just said there, it doesn't feel just like a YouTube video that they've just downloaded and dialed into. In terms of how to keep it engaging, I think another thing which was really important for us was in terms of making sure the process was really slick. So in terms of how to book the class, how to dial into the class. And so, because we all know what people are like, any barrier to anything, well then, okay, I've had enough. I've tried that, it didn't work, and we'll look elsewhere. So we've been really focused on making sure that there are no barriers, or if there are barriers, how we can overcome them, to make sure that whole booking the class, booking a membership, dialing into the session is a really slick process. So then when they're into the session, then we then as instructors are as engaging as we can be and as we would usually be if we were seeing these people face to face.
Great, thanks Mark. And then over to you, Mike. An engaging experience online, what can you do?
Yeah, I think you have to think about this from a brand perspective as well as an instructor perspective. So if you want to engage at the brand level, because we think a digital can be a brand extension, then you need to actually potentially invest in production, because it's going to be that branded experience, and you're not going to be able to have a conversation with somebody where you might call them out by name because it's an evergreen type of content that's played forever. On the instructor side of the equation, we've had the ability to interview consumers during this time, and basically what they're looking at for engagement is they like the call out. So you need to call them out all the time, and you will get them to show up more often. The other side of the equation, there's this like subliminal thing of they like to know that other people are there working out when they're working out. It's a motivational thing, which actually engages them. So they have this propensity to do live. The problem is schedule. That's the other thing, right? You may teach a class at 8 a.m. and they're in New York, right? And you're 8 a.m. in California. It just doesn't work, right? So there's opportunity to actually engage even more than what already is taking place. And so if you ultimately are looking at the best engagement, it's bi-directional content. So we look at it like a funnel system. We say video on demand for a branded experience. It's great for people that have never experienced your brand. It's more about them. They don't know your instructor. They don't know you. They don't care about it. They just want to see what you're about. Make sure that product represents whatever the quality of your brand is. People always say, what's the quality of content need to be? I say, what's the quality of your brand need to be, right? That's your choice. You already know what that is. The other side is when you do the single broadcast, which is kind of like the Peloton-esque, where they're not having communication. In those sorts of situations, you do know potentially people that are joining in, and traditionally people are holding up boards in the back. People are saying, hey, call this person out, whatever it may be. That's what happens in those production settings. And then number two is this bi-directional content, which is kind of what we're doing here. That is the most engaging type of content there is right now.
Great. Yeah, some really good points touched on there. And Mike, I actually might direct this question to you as well before we pop on back to Anne-Marie. I was wondering, so how can you use, obviously it's taking, it takes a little bit of time to, when you record your video, to edit it and maybe repurpose it. But there is obviously a massive opportunity here to use that content that you're making and use it for, say, the likes of lead generation. Do you have any tips on how you can use your video content to attract more people to your studio?
Yep. So I'm going to give you a couple different ideas. So number one is you probably have a platform where you play your content right now. And that would be, say, a tool like Zoom, just as an example. And that tool, you need to take people to that tool in order to play that content. Leverage social. Social has an audience with tools. So that's how we kind of think about it. We break the two out, right? And so you can take that content and reuse that content or drive that content there. It's complete acquisition. It should be free. It doesn't need to be paid. That's one thing to think about when it comes to, I create content and then I'm going to potentially post that, repost that up in sort of like video on demand type content. Spend a little bit of time to put that through posts. Don't just clip it, right? And that can be an intro and outro, and that can be a one-time investment. So what a lot of times we'll do is we'll actually script the workouts, or we'll script the class with the brand. And then we know exactly what the assets are that are needed. And then we create those once and reuse them all the time. So it's a one-time investment outside of just the edit. And a simple edit can be done. You can probably do a simple edit if it's one camera, one audio feed, and then you're potentially just using graphics. The issue where you potentially need a little bit more help is when you're doing multi-camera, you're dealing with music, you're dealing with multiple audio feeds. And then the other side of the equation, which you can start to think about, is you do have the ability to license that content. There's more and more aggregators that are coming into the market. And the way that we look at licensing is, yes, you can make some money on it, but it's promotion. Think about that like if you were to listen to a song by an artist, if you like that song, you might go download the album. You still own the album. So we say put out the best content there because it's acquisition.
Okay, so you're coming at it from an acquisition perspective. Having that high quality content can really boost your chances of getting more people in your door, be it your virtual door or your physical door. So great perspective there, Mike. I'd love to hear your view on this, Anne-Marie.
Yeah, I think, to echo Mike, I think depending on how you're doing it, if you're doing live streaming and that's that bi-directional and you're really engaging people, and then you can upload that to whatever catalog you have, whether it's just a YouTube channel or you're on a platform where you can create a library like a Netflix type of library, and then drive people there that couldn't do the live but can get the video on demand, and use social to drive them to your website, your secret sauce, what you're offering, your niche market. Definitely use social. The music is the tough one with this, because if you're doing it yourself and your instructors are playing original music from Spotify and iTunes, how do you do that with the virtual? And then there's the sync licensing that you need to be concerned with once it's in the catalog. So if you're working with a third-party production team, there's ways where they could teach, with their music, and then when you send it in, they will overlay the royalty-free music. So the music is a whole nother thing. But as far as using that content, absolutely, social media, 100%, tease it out, give them fit tips, give them, learn the moves, meet the instructors, hear the testimonials, all of it a call to action to drive them to your site to then subscribe to your content.
Brilliant. Yeah, and a number of ways that you mentioned there about how you can use your content, like sneak peeks, especially I guess with studios reopening, showing that little snippet of a class in progress with your restrictions in place, the spacing that you need to have and everything like that.
And there's so many apps already out there that help you do clips. And I mean, there's a million of them that can make it look really professional. I know, people want to do like creative content and do it themselves, but if you don't have that production team, there's plenty of third-party apps to make your freemium and your social look professional.
Definitely. Thank you for that. And then Christina and Helene, how about you? How have you used your video content for lead generation?
We haven't used too much as of yet. I think we've been maybe to a fault for trying to perfect what we're doing a little bit too much and come out the gate looking the branded way we want to. And that's definitely maybe a fault of ours. We've enjoyed the Zoom classes. We've recorded a few, but again, like Anne-Marie was saying, you have to pull it out. We're pretty loud with the music that we use, and then we didn't want to have the licensing issues. That's the fun part about Zoom, is because it's closed and it's not, you can just do whatever you want with the music and not have to worry about it. But we are going to go into production doing a lot of online videos, and we're just kind of perfecting it right now and how to instruct it, because there's so much to teach with boxing, and we're very excited to offer that, and we will 100% be using that as a acquisition tool for sure. Yeah.
Brilliant. Thank you. And then for you, Mark, at Lion Fitness, how about you? How have you used your content? Is there any way that you've repurposed it?
Just, I guess, looking at it from a slightly different angle, I've used the recording of our online content to try and increase membership as a way of offering it to members for as part of their package. So if they've not been able to join a session because of the times, because they've not suited them for work commitments, etc., then we're then uploading the the recordings so they can watch them back at a time that's suitable for them. But we've only opened that up to our members, so it's a discussion that we can have with customers who have considered membership previously, but maybe because of time commitments and work and life balances, they've not committed to that. So it's another offering as part of our membership package, that actually here's something else that you're going to get as part of that package, that you may not dial into the live classes, but actually you can then watch them back on the recordings. In terms of using them for kind of snippets, then yeah, they're all great ideas. It's not something we've done as yet, but yeah, certainly something that we'll be looking at going forward. Yeah.
Brilliant. Yeah, so I guess the key things that we're getting from this is about looking at your customers. How can you provide extra value to them through using this online content? And then when you do have the online content, how can you really make the most of it and make it work for you in generating leads and acquiring leads as well? So I'm conscious that there's been a massive influx of questions. So I know Kevin is going to come on to select some questions to pass out. Christina, your little nugget about how you can add music has gotten a lot of questions about that. So you might want to share that with some of the attendees who've asked that question.
Yeah, you know what? I'll let Helene talk about the internal speaker movement because, and I think it's really helpful if you can have that second person that manages the music while you have someone instructing. I've invested in some Apple EarPods, which I'm using right now, which you can connect to your, well, with Zoom, you can connect this as the, I guess it's the external, so you can hear me through the mic. But because Helene would be on another login, she's been able to manage the music that way. But again, when I do the classes on my own, I definitely have, I just kind of stop and start the music, but again, using the internal speaker, logging into the computer. I'll let Helene kind of talk about that a bit too.
Yeah, if you go to the share screen down in like the bottom middle section, it's green. If you hit that and you hit on the advanced, there's the option for, I think it says music and computer sound only. I can't remember the exact phrase, but it's the middle, it's the middle one. I can picture it now. So yeah, you go to share screen, advanced, and then the middle one, which is like music and computer sound only, and go okay. It will say at the top that you're sharing your sound. So you should see that in the top middle section. And then that means it's all hooked up and good to go. And that way it will be really loud. So try and play with the volume and ask your clients or do a test run with someone else, just so that you know, because it will be really loud on their end.
Okay.
And recently, I can see a lot of people asking about the mic. I did a lot of research and I got the Rode Wireless Go mic. Not sponsored by them, but I should be at this point. I've talked about them so much. But this, with the right cords, you can connect it to the internal speaker on your laptop or on your iPhone. And we found out this weekend on a live on demand, when we should have been muted and we weren't, the microphone actually picks up extremely well. So remember to mute. And I'm going to do that now.
Brilliant. Thanks for that.
I'll add one thing to that. I discovered Loopback, which is when we were doing the Zoom, which allows, so Zoom's one audio channel for both mic and music, but Loopback allows like your wireless headphones to plug in, and then you can play Spotify, so it's 2 channels.
Okay.
So you can adjust the music on one and the voice on the other. So it's not in one. I believe it's Loopback. Mike, am I right? Is it Loopback?
Yeah, because the terminology is audio loops. You do an audio loop when you're doing those. So yeah, that's how you fix the issues.
Yeah. It's like
Thank you.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead, Anne-Marie.
No, I was saying I think it's like $100 for the software or the plugin, and then you'd have to do a couple little things, and there's a ton of YouTube videos on how to install it. And once you do it and you use your earpods, it's great because it's almost like using a mixer for 2 channels.
Okay, brilliant. That's a real helpful little tip there, especially when you want music and you want to hear an instructor's voice as well. Excellent. A really popular question here that's coming up is all about pricing. I know that tends to be a lot of people's bugbear, how you package it and how you price it. So a question here from Erin: how do you package your online offering, or how do you package your offering? Is it in studio, online only, or a mixture of on-demand and or hybrid? How would you look at, if you have a physical studio, how would you tie your virtual offering into that? If anyone has a preference on asking this question, you can unmute yourself.
Yeah, I don't mind. I don't mind talking about what we do at Lion Fitness. So yeah, we basically have a mix of offerings. So we have a membership offering which incorporates both in studio and online. The only really differential is for any customers who are not members and who are just making a one-off purchase. Then they can do that for online classes also. But obviously we're quite quick to try and engage with these people to get them to look at the other options which longer term are more financially beneficial to them. So I think from my point of view, I think we have to try and cater for everybody and everybody's different needs. So whilst we don't have lots of different membership offerings, we have basically one structured package which incorporates all our on-site offerings and all our online offerings.
Okay, brilliant. And I think we're coming to the end of time, but I'd love to get just one more question out there. Right, so what do you think about live classes versus on-demand? A question from Sydney here. I might direct that to you first, maybe Christina and Helene.
I would say especially for us, and as Mike had said, the call outs you can't do as particular to a certain person. You can, to be honest, I will say when I was injured and I finally recovered, I started watching all these videos and just seeing IG and Zoom and seeing how they did it, so that I wanted to know what I liked, what we should do and whatnot. And I did a live on Instagram, so they couldn't see me, nothing. And I actually stopped doing the exercise. And he, for some reason, was like, why are you stopping? Keep going. And I was like, I got scared because I was like, is this on? Like now maybe IG Live is different. And so there is still a way to call out and be like, keep going, you got this. But there are different cues. It's a lot harder because you can't see them. You don't know what they're doing. Yeah. So that I think is the hardest thing. I know for me, I talk a lot in general, but when I don't see people, I talk even more. I've noticed that when my video's not on or I can't see them. So there's definitely kind of rules to follow for live and rules to follow for recorded. And I think it's just figuring out, one, what your clientele wants as well too. Some people, again, like that, like constant talking. Some people kind of want quiet, whatever it is. I think it's just going to be finding your groove and finding what works for your community.
And just to follow up on that, and I think we're doing something similar to Mark, whereas we're packaging all as is whether when you buy class passes from us, we don't have a monthly membership. So you can take a online class, an in-person class, again, because of COVID and the fact that everything's restricted. They're opening up, we call it stage 3 here in Ontario as of next week, but we'll still keep the classes in studio small because now we've been able to open it up virtually to the world, which is basically what we want to do. We know we have a unique offering, and from running gyms for years, this is just so exciting to be able to not be restricted to only training people who are within a 5-kilometer distance of you. So this is actually an exciting part of this, and we're going to keep our classes small, still offer some at home, like when we're training from at home and training from in the gym, and we're just going to keep the cameras running while we're doing the classes in studios. So it's very exciting, and a lot of studios can do that, I think now. It's super exciting.
Brilliant. Thanks, Christina. So I think we have a little bit more time to keep going with this. So I might just pop another question out. So do you think your clients or members in general, expect live sessions only, or do you think that you should provide this recorded session to your members as well, maybe as a follow-up? Maybe I might direct that to you, Mike.
Yeah. So there's a strong, if the member has a connection to the instructor, there's a strong desire to go live. And then what your people are doing is they're doing these quote unquote encores against those, right, for 48, 72 hours, whatever it may be. And then eventually that potentially falls into video on demand. You have to still offer video on demand because of the scheduling factor. The people have schedule issues still. So 90% of Peloton's content, as an example, is consumed in not live, right? But when you dive in deeper and you try to find out what they prefer over the two, they prefer live. It's just a scheduling issue. So there is an opportunity for technology as well as your approach and process to potentially figure out how can I incorporate this community element to my video on demand products. Things we're looking at right now, which is if I can include that instructor, even if they're not teaching, how does that look, so on and so forth. One thing I wanted to give you guys just for some insight related to pricing, since you guys were talking about that, the top price point that's purchased by consumers is between 10 and 15. It comes out to about $12.50 when you look at like the masses, just so you know, and that's like a subscription model against video on demand, does not include live. We say price the connection, don't price the content. So you're going to price the price of this communication, because our connection is stronger than just a single broadcast out. Same thing with video on demand. So you actually have 3 pricing tiers. If you are going to try to sell your digital subscription as an upsell, say it's $19.99 online and you're going to give it to $9.99 to your members, your percentage of uptake against the membership is pretty low in the grand scheme of things. This is some pre-COVID data, right? If you price it into your membership and use it as almost like a value add, you're going to get a higher uptake. This is data from across some aggregator brands that we work with and have looked at the data on. So just wanted to give you guys some of that insight on the pricing side. I still think the pricing, and not everyone agrees with me, so that's okay. The pricing of whatever you charge in studio is still going to be your top. We build funnels from social to in studio, and we price across every single spectrum, and we still price Zoom lower because the connection of us talking like this versus the connection of me giving you a hug or shaking your hand is obviously less. So.
Brilliant. And I think that's a really interesting point, rather than seeing it as like a separate entity, to see it as a value add for your members and your memberships.
Yeah, the other side of the equation, this is things that just people don't think about, is we dig deep, right? Because this is all we play in. And so we know if somebody's doing yoga, we know that somebody who does yoga probably does HIIT too, right? Like, so you have all these different sort of like things that people do. Consumers eat buffet style, they don't eat just off one plate anymore. So you can use digital to supplement what you might do, so you can check that box for them. So when they're instead of having to go to 2 or 3 places, maybe you have that. So you can create partnerships with other people that do really good. You can either look at that and try to white label that content, do it yourself, or partner with other brands. There's still a ton of opportunity to exploit within digital streaming here that we're just at the very onset of.
Cool, yeah, and I think that touches on a point as well that some of the questions here are, so when you think of going virtual, you're like, wow, global expansion, I can reach anyone anywhere. But then there's also that issue of like, how can you also keep it local, keep your original customer base happy and engaged? I wonder, is that anything that maybe Mark or Christina and Helene, Anne-Marie, that you've had experience with about, you know, using virtual but ensuring that the people in your locality are still catered to?
I can pop in real quick and they'll know better. I'm now just embarking with running group fitness at one of our clubs. We're building one and we're adding the virtual to hybrid offer as we speak. So I'm figuring out, you know, which system to use. But I'm realizing that I just lost my train of thought. As far as offering it to people, if you have multi-clubs, you can offer that subscription or that membership to the other clubs to take all of the classes. You can just record in one studio and offer that to all of your members. So I feel like, you know, whether you have one club or multiple clubs, you can start with your community. I think that's an easier base. To reach out globally is kind of what the apps are doing. And they're really starting with just advertising out there. They don't have that local following. Definitely go with the local following first. They're already experiencing you. You're in your town or you're in your region, and then you can expand out and get non-members. There's plenty of non-members that can join, but I think you kind of start grassroots first.
Brilliant. Thanks so much for that, Anne-Marie. And I think this has been a really, really helpful panel for anyone that's been considering going online and wasn't maybe sure how, or else just for that additional information that you guys have been able to provide about your expertise with running your studios and live streaming agencies and everything in between. So we're going to bring on our next customer spotlight, but I'd just like to say a massive thank you to Anne-Marie, Christina, Mark, Mike, and Helene. You've been a great panel, and thank you so much for joining us today. And we'll be handing out the winners of the Girls Just Want a Box gloves later on today. Thanks so much, everyone.
Thank you.